What's going on, everybody? It's Nick Kosko with On3 Sports. Got a very special guest today, Utah head coach Kyle Whittingham, kind enough to join me on this Tuesday morning. Coach, great to talk to you as always. Good to catch up with you as well. So I'll get right into it. Spring practice right now. You guys got your spring game coming up on Saturday. So I'm looking at what you guys have done so far during this spring portion. And what has really stood out to you in terms of the transition from 2022 into 2023?
Well, first of all, we got a lot of the same faces back. We didn't take a big hit with graduation. We lost some key players. I mean, make no mistake. We we had some tremendous players that are moving on to the National Football League, but we got a bunch of the really the nucleus of the football team from last year back. Spring to us is always driven by fundamentals and techniques. We don't do a bunch of scheme work in spring football. It's trying to make each individual player better. Fundamentally wise and technique wise. That's the driving force.
Who are some of the biggest standouts, would you say, on either side of the ball? Or maybe it is both sides of the ball.
Well, I'd say offensively, Jaquindon Jackson, our running back, is continuing to embrace that position and that new role for him. Offensive line has really come together as a group. We lost a couple really good players, but we've got maybe as much depth as we've ever had there. Working on developing a number 2 quarterback to back up Cam Rising. That's still a work in progress. We're not there yet. Receiver position. That's another position of, I don't want to say concern, but a position that really has got to continue to develop. Defensively, Connor O'Toole has had a tremendous spring at defensive end. He's a guy that we converted from wide receiver just a year ago, and he has really taken to that position. Cole Bishop is really the leader of this defense in the secondary, and he's having a fine spring as well.
So you mentioned those fundamentals and how you want to hammer those home during spring. And it's interesting that you mentioned quarterback Cam Rising. We'll get into him in a second, but you mentioned the backup quarterback position. So when you talk about fundamentals, particularly for that type of position, what are you exactly looking for? You're looking just for mostly ball security and just making all the right throws and doing the simple stuff?
Yeah, taking care of the football is job one. If you can't take care of the football, then you can't play for us. So that's the starting point. Beyond that, you got to be able to move the chains, get us in the end zone, be a leader out there. Have that it factor, the field general mentality that you look for in a quarterback, and accuracy. You got to have a certain completion percentage to play for us. And then you've got to be able to go through your progressions and make good decisions, which ties into accuracy and taking care of the football.
So quarterback Cam Rising, we've talked about him before. I remember talking to you last year about this too. He is just a guy that really stands out for you guys and your program, and he's basically accelerated his development each and every season. So going into 2023, what do you expect from him? What kind of impact has he had on this team that's already won 2 straight Pac-12 titles?
Well, his impact on the team can't be overstated. He's the leader of our football team, leader of the leaders, I guess you can say. As Cam goes, so goes our offense. Unfortunately, each of the last 3 seasons were cut short by injury. The first season he started for us, got injured against USC, unfortunately, and missed the entire season. And then the last 2 seasons, he's been able to lead us to the Rose Bowl, but unfortunately wasn't able to finish that Rose Bowl game. He got knocked out of both those games. But he means so much to this football team, and has been such a driving force behind our success. And really, he's the guy that rallies the troops, and is, like I said, he's our leader.
Has he taken any extra steps or precautions throughout the spring or the offseason to maybe prevent those injuries, or do you kind of just chalk this up to freak occurrences that happen during the game?
I think the latter. He's a guy that he's a big kid. He's nearly 220 pounds, 6'2". So he's got a big frame, and he's pretty rocked up. But he has had a couple of unfortunate injuries his last 2 seasons, and right now he's about a third of the way through ACL rehab, and doing very well and on schedule. And we fully expect him to be ready for our season opener against Florida.
What's he doing while he's rehabbing? Is he in the meeting rooms all the time, helping out? Obviously, you mentioned before the backup quarterback position. So I would imagine he has a big role playing into who's going to be staying right behind him, I would imagine.
He does, and he's out there every practice and mentoring and tutoring these young quarterbacks. And in the meeting room, I mean, he's doing everything but taking reps on the field, and he's the type of guy that is such a powerful presence. He's a leader even when he's not suited up. I mean, he's the guy that everyone looks to.
So let's look ahead to Saturday's spring game. What do you exactly are you looking for in this scrimmage? Now, a lot of coaches do it differently, where they basically split up their team into two, and they look for certain plays. They don't really open the playbook as much. They look for physicality sometimes. What are you looking for in the spring game?
Well, we'll keep things basic and pretty vanilla offensively and defensively for that matter. So there's not a lot of trying to trick each other, but we're really looking to find out who the guys that haven't played for us yet. This is as game-like conditions as we can create and see how they respond in those conditions. There'll be a lot of starters held out. We'll probably have 15 starters that will not be playing in the spring game, but it's a good opportunity for those guys that are trying to find a seat on the airplane to do their thing and show that they can help us.
I like that expression. So looking ahead to 2023 in the fall, I know it's still a little bit of ways away, but it does come up fast. The Pac-12, very interesting dynamic with the conference here in 2023. Obviously, last year with USC and UCLA, so we'll talk about that in a second. But you guys have won now 2 straight conference titles. You can be a 3-time champion at the end of the 2023 season. So do you think about that at all? And I know all coaches usually say it's one game at a time, but knowing that your program can make history based on who actually is in your conference right now, I mean, does that mean something to you and obviously your entire football team?
Oh, it sure does. And we talk about that. That's not anything we hide from. You're right. We're back-to-back champs. Nobody since the advent of the Pac-12 has ever three-peated. So that would be something that would be, awesome if we can accomplish that. And that certainly is one of our goals. And given the personnel that we got coming back, it should be very realistic.
So I'm looking at the USC and UCLA factor. Obviously, they're going to go to the Big Ten in 2024. Is there any type of extra motivation to basically send those 2 schools out with a loss? I know there's really no extra animosity between a lot of these schools, maybe except from USC and UCLA against each other. But since they're leaving and you guys beat them twice last year, USC, is there any little extra motivation to say, you know what, we're going to send you to a new conference and we're going to deny you of any type of championship?
Well, that doesn't. It's not on our radar right now. It hasn't been talked about, and you talk about the one game at a time matters. That does come into play when you're talking about specific opponents. All we're concerned with at this point is Florida, and obviously we know our big picture goals, but we haven't gotten ahead of that and worrying about any other teams in particular at this point in time.
What do you make of the changing landscape of the conference now, knowing that those 2 big schools are going to be now playing in the Midwest a lot and even the East Coast?
Yeah, it's going to be different. I mean, they were the mainstays of the pack since its inception back, whenever it was, 100 years ago or whatever the history of it is, and so it'll be a different look without a doubt. We as a conference are eagerly awaiting the TV deal that should be coming up in the next 1, 2, 3 months at the outside, and that'll give us a lot of indication of where we are as a conference. But we're looking forward to being strong members of the pack, whatever, when all is said and done. I think we're going to add a team or 2. So whenever the dust settles, we're excited to be in the Pac-12. And right now that's our mindset.
It's going to be an interesting transition from 2023 to 2024. So one more for you on 2023 here. Now, I remember when I talked to you last year, you guys kind of embraced almost an underdog type of role because everyone seemed to pick against you to repeat as Pac-12 champions. Now they're talking about a potential 3-peat and history here for Utah, but everyone wants to talk about USC, Lincoln Riley, what Oregon can do under Dan Lanning. Obviously, UCLA was solid under Chip Kelly. It seems that the conference rose up in 2022 and is going to do the same in 23. Are you guys embracing another underdog mentality role here in 2023? Or you're going to say, you know what, we're the big dogs now. We've won 2 in a row. We're going to dictate the action in this conference.
I'm pretty sure that when the media days come and all that the talk is going to be about those other schools, and will once again be an afterthought. So when and if that occurs, we will definitely embrace that role.
Well, Coach, you're not an afterthought to us and to me as well. Appreciate to talk to you again, as always. Good luck the rest of the way in spring, this summer, fall camp, and looking forward to talking to you once again. Hopefully you guys have another great season here in the fall.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate you having me on.
All right. Utah head coach Kyle Whittingham with me right here on On3 Sports.